We are building the card game called War for the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. In the previous videos, we have seen how we can create a deck of cards. We understood the game rules, and we also saw how these deck of cards can be dealt to the two players, which means the computer and the player both have 26 cards with which they are now going to start playing the moves. Now, the game is going to proceed in what we call moves. We'll talk about this in a moment. But let's just think about how does the game play. Well, like we discussed before, both the player and the computer pick up the top card from their card piles and they sort of bring it to the open. Now when this game actually happens, let's say real people playing this with real cards, typically what will happen is both the players will take up their cards and throw it onto the playing table. And that's where all the things will action, all that sort of action will happen. Now, in this project, when we are doing this in Python, we have to create something similar or something equivalent to that table. And for us, that will be a list called table cards. So basically, whatever cards are taken out from the player or the computer's, let's say, card pile, they will be going to this table cards. And we'll see this in action and becomes more clear. But really, once the player and the computer, let's say, play their cards, there are two scenarios that come up. I call them scenario 1, scenario 2. Scenario 1 is that one of the two cards is larger. Now within this scenario, there are two scenarios again. Well, there's scenario 1A where the player card is larger. For example, let's say computer throws 2 of clubs, player throws 8 of spade. Now remember, suits are being ignored, so the computer card will be seen smaller, player card will be seen larger. On the other hand, scenario 1B would be the reverse of this. Computer card is larger. For example, computer throws 10 of hearts, players throws say 6 of diamond. Now 10 is more than 6, suits ignored, so we say computer card is larger. But anyway, in either of these cases, the situation is relatively simple because as we saw in the rules, the table cards will be given to the one who has won this. And in fact, the move will get over right there. However, in scenario 2, it's more interesting because both the cards are equal, which means that now we have to enter the war situation, which means that the move has in fact not gotten over. Both the players contribute more cards and then they get back to this situation. So this is very interesting. Let's say, for example, both, let's say both put say 9 of clubs and say 9 of diamonds, both are equal. Now the move is not over yet because more things have to happen, and those more things are contributing cards and going back to the start of the move. In fact, we can depict it all in quite a, let's say, concise diagram, which is fairly representative. As I said, we start the game by giving each player, by shuffling the cards, let's say, giving each player 26 cards. Both players play the top of their card, top card of their pile. Now, this is where the move starts. Now, two scenarios come up. Let's say one player's card is bigger. If the answer is yes, we are in either scenario 1A or 1B, which are really very similar. Winner gets both the cards and the move is completed. So this is actually simple because just kind of take one pass through this and we are back here. Players play the next card. Again, they go through this and they come out. However, there's a second scenario which is more interesting. Once we find that both the cards are equal, so we go into scenario 2. Now there's a valid question to be asked. Well, do both players have at least 4 cards or not? And why is this important? Because if we don't do this, then we may end up in a situation where we bring this player game here, but the players don't have cards to play. So that is an odd situation. So if this answer is no, then we just say, okay, the game is over, the move is completed. Whatever the story, unfortunately, the game has to be called off here. On the other hand, let's say we have situation where both the players have sufficient number of cards. So what they do is they play 3 more cards onto the pile, and we have seen this in the rules earlier, and the move is not completed. So this is very interesting. They come back to this point, play a new card. So here the move is not actually started, the move just continues. Now the important point to understand here is that once we are, let's say, in this loop, we really do not know how many times we are going to traverse through this, because it's possible that maybe there's one war, and then after that I come out from this and the move gets completed. It's also possible that I have say 2 wars or say 3 wars and then the game gets completed. So that's an important point to understand, that this game, we really do not know how many times, how many passes this move, let's say, will be made to complete a move. At the same time, we do not know how many such moves will be played in a game, because again, there are so many variabilities. Now what I am getting at is that we need to create a game where we have 2 Boolean variables and 2 while loops. And why is that? Because, well, think about it. From this, there's an inner loop of the moves, and we do not know how many passes through this we are going to make. So let's say 1 or say more. At the same time, there's this outer loop running, which is the game itself, which is many moves, and we do not know how many moves there are. So we are going to use two Boolean variables and two while loops, which are going to be nested, because we really do not know upfront how many times this will be repeated. And that's kind of very interesting in this game. Now, one question comes up is, when does the game get over, right? So, actually there can be many more situations, but for the, let's say for this basic game, we are taking these three scenarios. We say that, okay, the game gets over after a certain number of moves, because, this game can actually go on forever. If the cards don't get over, then it can really go on depending on how the cards move. But let's say we say, okay, at the end of certain moves, we are going to end this game, because that's kind of logical. There's also two other scenarios where, like I said, one of the two players has less than four cards when the war happens, or it so happens that the player, has lost one player, the player's cards are gotten over at the beginning of the move, because that's logical. The player is unable to play a move. The point is, we do not know how long this is going to take, and hence we need an entire game inside a while loop too. And that's exactly what I'm getting at. We are going to use two Boolean variables and two while loops to do this. So let's just get to the code and sort of build a framework for this, and then later on we can come back in the next videos and fulfill, build the remaining parts of it, right? So like I said, I'm going to use two Boolean variables. A game complete, I'm going to set it to false. uh, I'm going to say move, say complete, also set this to false. And now I'm going to just say, look, while not game complete. Now remember, while loop keeps repeating something while this condition is true. So while game complete is false, which means not game complete is true, this is going to happen. And inside this, I have another one which is called, say, while not, say, move complete. And this is sort of the basic structure that I put in. Now be very sure and be very clear that this is a nested while, which means the second while is indented with respect to the first one, and that is a loop which is inside the other loop. Now we are going to come back to this and start building this more from this point, but I hope this has been clear. This is interesting. Do think about why we need this two while loops. It's kind of very logical from the way the game is set up. If you find that this way of learning programming by building activities, applying concepts to those activities is interesting, look at our website www.ybyte.in, because we learn Python programming through such fun activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.